Here with me today was Jonathan Resendez. He's been in the technology arena for nearly 2 decades. He has and continues to use state-of-the-art and cutting-edge technologies in his day-to-day business of running his local internet company here in Shasta County. Thank you for joining me, John.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, what did you think of my opening?
Well, I think you really touched on a lot of the important changes that have been going on in the classroom over the last 50 years. And yeah, right on, I think.
You and I go back to similar age, so we have seen that change over the 50-year period. I mean, both of us were in school in the early 70s, 50 years ago, at a very different time in education. My recollection from my youth is that as students loved when a movie would come in, and we would gleefully sit through 20, 30, 40-minute videos without complaint.
Yeah.
I still remember watching a video on lahars in the 4th grade in Japan, where volcanoes would erupt, cause a mud flow. That mud flow would roll down hills, fill valleys, etc. And then, just to my delight, the teacher actually played the movie backwards for us, and we got to watch all the lahars work their way back up the hills, up the mountains.
Right.
And again, I was delighted to have the movie in class. I was also delighted by the time that it filled, because it was going to get me closer to a break.
Right, yeah, it wasn't lecture from beginning to end on that particular day.
Over my 20 years as a math science teacher in middle school, I've watched real changes in students' attitudes towards films. We can no longer show a 20, 30, 40-minute film and expect to have students pay attention. It's an unrealistic goal. There's different strengths that they've acquired and certain weaknesses as well in comparison to our youth.
Yeah.
And so that task continues. It always is how to build student comprehension, subject matter, critical thinking skills, engage students with technologies that they're excited about, that mirror their daily lives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the tools that are available now are vast. You know, I mean, it's not like it's just a reel-to-reel projector in the classroom. Now you have computers, you have YouTube, that you can bring content into the classroom, content that was created anywhere in the world, really.
Yes.
It may not even been educational to start with, but just somebody filming that same volcano footage that you talked about. Nowadays, somebody could be in Hawaii watching a volcano erupt, watching the magma going into the sea. It wasn't meant to be an educational piece, but you're watching it almost in real time.
Yeah, we literally, in my science class, we pull up the United States Geological Society earthquake page, and it shows in real time. It's the same data they use when there's earthquakes around the planet.
Yeah.
And when we conduct our hands-on experiments and learning about earthquakes, we literally pull up that data, and the answers to the questions we use the answers change based on that day, because every day there's roughly 30 earthquakes around the planet that are 2.5 or greater.
So my question to you then is do you notice a difference in the students being engaged when you pull up real-time information and data compared to, say, reading a paragraph in a textbook?
Definitely, there's still, and certainly real time. If it's happening here now quick, they're far more engaged certainly than they would be reading it out of a book. And so that really hasn't changed. That dynamic of wanting to experience information in multiple modalities, hands-on, especially visual, auditory. I do have readers, and I do have students that would just prefer just to read it, like in a book, bounce ideas off each other with interpersonal.
Right.
And so, I mean, still a variety of learners, and that technology allows us to reach, to appeal to many different learning modalities.
Yeah. Well, in your introduction piece, you had mentioned the advent of smartphones, handheld devices. Those that's the present. That's where we are right now.
Yes.
And so as an educator, you have to embrace that as difficult as it may be. But I think it's very important for teachers and educators and the educational system to start looking. They have to be the ones looking down the road of what's coming up now. You know, we're seeing stories all the time of kids using AI to cheat on tests, to take tests for them, to write papers. You know, so we have augmented reality, we have virtual reality, we have artificial intelligence.
I, as a science teacher, in particular, math, science, technology, engineering, just STEM, but I am elated by the possibility of augmented virtual reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, web-based virtual reality entering the classroom. I see so much potential to reach students engage them, reach them at their level, let them explore hands-on in a safe manner.
Yeah.
That to be able to mix chemicals and not worry about injuries in a science classroom has been unheard of.
Yeah.
And so many teachers shy away from experiments because we're constantly in concern over students getting injured, the time it takes to set up, to take down, to handle all of the equipment is daunting.
Yeah.
And I see augmented reality, web-based, just virtual reality, and I'm elated. I keep hoping that we'll reach the classroom in a truly impactful way. Virtual reality has been around for decades, and it's been trusted for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, just fighter pilots, commercial pilots have been using it for years now. And they can test the limits of their own ability and the plane's ability in a safe way and not crash a $30 million plane. But it's been cost prohibitive for schools. I mean, it's just time and money are two restraints.
Yeah, and so interesting story about virtual reality. Gosh, this was probably 1992, 93. I went to a lecture, Berkeley lecture, and the speaker was a guy by the name of Timothy Leary. And I didn't know who Timothy Leary was, but apparently he was a big pioneer in psychedelic drugs or whatever, you know. But oddly enough, the lecture was about virtual reality, and this is in 1991 probably. So that's how far back this goes. And what he was talking about was the immersive experience of virtual reality, and how, you know, of course, being attached to the LSD movement, you know, he was saying how that was an immersive experience, but it was drug that did it. This one being technology that you put on a headset and so on. The challenges that he noted 35, 40 years ago was getting a screen small enough to be able to, you know, put on a pair of goggles that you could immerse yourself in. But obviously we've overcome those obstacles now. Now the greatest challenge truly is processing power, because it's one thing to have a small screen, but if you can't process these images at 30 or 60 frames per second, then it's like watching old-fashioned TV, you know, black and white, choppy, and so on. So the processors are getting faster and faster and faster. The screens are getting clearer and clearer, which means it translates to an experience that's not just immersive, but it's believable. You know, and that's where we're headed. That's what we're there now today. But as far as I know, it's not in the classrooms yet.
No, I can't wait for it to reach. I would love to be able to take my class through a virtual reality tour of the Monterey Bay Aquarium and have them come together, web-based metaverse technology, where they're all part of the same program in virtual reality together, and we can have a component together where we're all part of the same lecture, and then the students can break off to different parts of the aquarium.
And you're touching on something actually that's going on in business right now today. Started a little bit with Zoom in the pandemic, right? And what was it? It wasn't just being able to have a video call. It was to have collaboration. And collaboration, whether it's in the classroom or in the office, it raises the productivity almost exponentially.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, I'm not getting this, I'm not getting that. And then two people collaborate in front of 7 or 8, light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Now, you know, and as a single teacher trying to teach somebody, you don't know what that light bulb is.
Mm-hmm.
But in a collaborative environment, it came out of left field and it resonated.
Now, what's your experience with augmented reality?
So augmented reality, and now oddly enough, from a teacher's perspective, competing with handheld devices, you know, the greatest example of augmented reality would be like a game called Pokemon Go, you know, where kids they walk around town and they battle other people with Pokemon and so on. Now, it was really cool when it first came out because kids were not getting outdoors, you know, and they're being active as opposed to just sitting on the couch. And Pokemon required them to be outdoors. You couldn't go down to the local park over here without seeing hundreds, I mean, literally hundreds of kids on their phones doing this. So, so that was kind of the introduction to how augmented reality can create this other immersive experience. And but in industry where companies are using augmented reality to remotely teach mechanics how to work on a car, how to work on an engine, how to replace an air conditioning unit or components within the air conditioning unit. Often companies don't have the time or the resources to train new technicians.
And explain how did that work though? If you're a mechanic using augmented reality, and let's say you need to replace a carburetor.
Okay, so the carburetor in question is going to be loaded into a memory chip or whatever. Okay, you're going to put on glasses similar to what you're looking at or what you're wearing. And the glasses are see-through, so you're not blocking vision like you do with virtual reality. There's a pass-through component, but in the center, it almost replicates a 55-inch TV screen, but you see the world beyond it. So as you have that carburetor in front of you in a 3D model, you can spin the carburetor to where you need it. Kind of like what they do on the Iron Man show, you know, or the Iron Man movies, you know, where he's moving things and manipulating them. It's you can kind of do that in augmented reality, but there's always the real world that is passing through.
Okay.
And if you get stuck on something, boy, it's all right there for you.
Now my question is I'm just contemplating the educational, again, ultimate goal, engage students, develop critical thinking skills for my STEM class, and then improve subject matter comprehension based on that. I can see augmented reality being engaging. I can see augmented reality, you learning or doing, but to really learn it, you'd have to repeat it a number of times. I'm just wondering if, for example, if you're a mechanic and you're fixing a carburetor on a Nissan, does it translate to then if you're working on a Ford or a different car to where you'd feel comfortable after working with it on one application to another, or would you have to practice that same carburetor multiple times to get it down? So you'd have to, like, by the 10th or 12th time you saw that car, you wouldn't need the augmented reality.
Right.
And I guess part of the same question we always face in education is like how much repetition to really develop a skill versus people exploring on their own.
And I think like anything else, it's just another tool in the toolbox. You know, there's going to be some students that, wow, I get it. You know, that light bulb again. and other students are like, you know, this is, yeah, I got it done, but you know, I have no idea what I did. And but they will learn from that experience what worked for them and what didn't work for them either. But I agree though, the repetition is going to be key, and you know, but if you take your analogy of mixing chemicals, as they keep mixing chemicals and they blow up virtually or you know in their screens, at least they are afforded the ability to do things repetitively.
Yes.
So
it go back.
Yeah.
Redo.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to that technology. I'm excited about its introduction into the classroom. I think the limited studies that I've read thus far are encouraging.
Yeah.
But it's such a new technology that the studies, educational studies, are very limited to date.
Yeah, they are. But where many teachers, I think, can get the edge right now is to start following at least the news of that technology. The glasses, so the augmented reality glasses that Facebook has, or Meta, those glasses are available. They're not crazy expensive, which is kind of nice. I want to say they're somewhere between the $250, $350 range. Unlike the Apple Vision glasses, which is more of a, you know, it's a premium device. It's kind of a hybrid actually between augmented reality and virtual reality, because it does have a pass-through component for the augmented side, but then you can also shut off the outside world for the virtual side. So that's what makes the Apple Vision product kind of unique in its class. But of course, as a teacher, you know, you can at least learn how those are being, you know, used right now, and then maybe eventually just start planning a curriculum around, you know, how to get most out of it.
I'm curious. Just, you've got 2 feet in technology, but you always keep, you know, kind of like in programming, you many fires in the iron. I guess from a technology standpoint, in education, where do you see education needing to go in the next 5 years, 10 years? I mean, what as teachers, science STEM teachers, what kernels of knowledge can we be planting now that you see will be helping when these kids are in their 20s, in their 30s?
Yeah. Wow. That's a powerful question, because it's almost as if we don't know yet. And the reason I say that is because, so there have been some bold statements made recently. You know, why learn how to code? Artificial intelligence can now code just as efficiently and effectively as a human can. There's a lot of truth to that. But writing a program that can play tic-tac-toe doesn't mean anything if you don't know where to put that program. So there's still very much a human component of that. And so would I tell everybody, run out and learn how to program, be a programmer still? Well, that's a tricky one. I
run into that, just my students with calculators go, why do I need to learn basic arithmetic? I have a calculator.
Right.
And I was just go, you want to know if your answer is in the ballpark, is right. And if you don't have a basis of knowledge, can you trust your answer or the answer of technology?
Right.
And it's, you know, well, why would I want to do that? And I was like, well, I want to still be able to walk. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to do things. Whether I choose to do it or not, I want to be able to do it.
Right, right.
And
yeah, and you know, back to your question, I think that for students now, they're really in a great position, because now they can kind of pick a technology that intrigues them. It's all going to be available. It's all going to be out there still, no matter what. So if somebody wants to program in Python, they love Python, there's going to be many job opportunities for somebody who just loves Python. Somebody who says, I love robotics, that's what I want to do. So many opportunities in robotics, combining the two for,
Yes.
I mean, so there's no clear answer, but the answer is better now with AI, I believe, than it was 5 years ago, in the sense of, even though there's no real right answer, there's a lot of great answers out there.
And yeah, and it's that constant, well, that changes so quickly. I guess that's the universal constant, is that it's always changing.
Yeah, for sure.
As a teacher, I always want to stay current with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always seeking to stay current on technologies just to better reach my students. And that's, reaching students, building those relationships, engaging them.
Yeah. And I think the part of your question that probably I didn't answer is, the key for most of these students is to get exposure to what these things are. I just talked about robotics. I talked about Python. Those are just words to somebody in 6th or 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
All they are is words.
Yeah.
But through an immersive experience, seeing how code is written, and how this code translated from lines to graphics, or to this machine doing this, having that, oh, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of kids are not exposed to that, even in STEM. We talk about STEM all the time, but how many times have you heard in math, when am I going to use this?
Yes.
And then of course you dig into your pocket, your bag of tricks, and you're saying, well, if you wanted to do this and this, you can give them examples.
Mm-hmm.
But using these technologies, virtual reality or augmented reality, where they can see code being written and how it translates into a tangible product, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like that's lacking in a lot of classrooms.
The engineer in me, because we obviously always build, long-standing, spaghetti structures are still a staple of middle school science, where they're constantly building.
Mm-hmm.
I look for virtual reality, and I just to be able to build a bridge, practicing different trusses, and really getting into the engineering aspect of it, with the amount of material in the product, its strength, its weight, flexibility, how it handles heat.
Yeah.
What do I want to use? Triangles? Do I want to use arcs? I mean, just and then when AI is incorporated, it can give you that instant feedback of what it can handle or collapse.
Sure. But back to your point too, though. Yeah, AI can do that. But if you don't understand the concept of the triangle or the arc or whatever, who cares what AI is giving you?
Yeah, if you don't, you won't appreciate what you have.
Absolutely.
And that's really engagement, that appreciation, that thirst, creating lifelong learners. Just wanting to be curious.
It's interesting. In my line of work, I work with just a lot of different people. And one of the things that I noticed is I have a lot of doctors that are clients, and I always thought that doctors were just way up there, and that's all they do is they just doctor. That's all they do. Practice medicine. And but I go into their homes. That's with my business and stuff. I'm in their homes, and I'm amazed at how many doctors are tinkerers. Like you said, lifelong learning. It's like they're constantly tinkering with something. They're doing, like that. Medicine's my job. This is my hobby. This is what I like doing.
That medicine. If you're going to be a doctor, a nurse, you better appreciate lifelong learning, because that's an area of life and death where technology changes and can make improvements in people's lives from year to year. And there's money involved, so they can have the equipment, the technology, the procedures, and they're they're learning procedures around the planet, just, or whether just, from Zoom, from other things. I mean, you can communicate and watch. And so, but I, as a teacher, I am excited about it. I am anxious to see where it goes. I want to get it in the classroom, get it in my students' hands, and I want to find that balance of just for their learning curve. You know, when does it just become excessive? When are they
Right. It's
the diminished returns?
Yeah, and there's not a super fine line between novelty and effectiveness. You know, because sometimes new is a novelty, but if you can get past the novelty stage and let them discover the tool. In other words, they're learning themselves. You know, I think it's powerful.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on in today.
Yeah,
Thank you
absolutely.
for joining me.
Okay.
I really appreciate it.
It was great having the conversation.
And thank you. And thank you for joining us today on Dividing by Zero. I'm signing off. Till next time.